Welcome, everyone, to another Jags podcast, episode 16, if you're keeping count. We certainly are. We're glad to have you with us, listening in, talking about Jags as always. We are one man down tonight. Some might argue the weakest link of our Jags podcast. I certainly would. That's Joey. He is out on a work assignment out of town this week. It's summer. We're going to be in and out, but we are still committed to giving out a weekly episode, and so that's what we're going to do, whether we're all here or not. But we do have with us Jason. Jason, how you doing tonight?
Honestly, I don't. Without Joey being here, I'm a little thrown off because I can always count on him to say something that I can just jump on immediately.
Right. By you mean saying something, you mean something stupid that
right.
you can.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
All right. Cool. I just wanted to clarify that for for our listeners. Robert is also here with us. Robert, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Missing Joey personally, so.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit weird without him here. I'll give him that much. It's
we're starting on time, so that's
that's true. Actually early, which is a first for another Jags podcast. I'm doing well tonight too. We're going to go ahead and throw this out there that Jason might be a little distracted because the NBA draft is happening as we're recording right now.
Specifically, the Magic are picking as we're speaking. Right
they're on the clock?
They're on the clock right
now.
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that, I was thinking about this coming in, would you say that, obviously we know that you're a diehard Jags fan.
Yes.
Would you say you are a diehard Magic fan? I
would say I'm a diehard Magic fan because to be a Magic fan, still, you have to be diehard.
Yeah, that's true.
At this point.
It's not for the faint of heart.
Right, exactly.
A lot like the Jags, really, up until last season.
And they give me hope. They give me hope that they could turn it around.
Are those your only two diehard teams, or do you have other teams that you would consider?
I follow the Gators really closely. I'm not an alumnus of the University of Florida.
Right.
But I do follow University of Florida really closely. But to be fair, I also follow Florida State really closely, too. I like watching both teams.
But that's more of your watch, but there's not the passion there.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
I'm not gonna shed a tear like I did the Jaguars this season.
Okay,
gotcha.
Gotcha.
Tears of joy, tears of sadness.
Right.
Things like that.
Robert, what about you? Who would you say besides the Jags is your next diehard team that you follow? I'm just curious.
Probably, really following, I love the Florida Panthers, but I also watch the Tampa Lightning because they've been on market for so long, so I follow both of them. Definitely like hockey. Other than that, I used to watch all the Magic games, but, it's just gotten so disappointing. I just kind of dropped off the
You're
map.
not diehard.
I'm not diehard.
Yeah.
So
not diehard.
But I would say I pretty much watch every Florida Panthers game.
Gotcha.
And probably 50% of the Lightning games. So.
Okay, well, hockey.
What about you, James?
Well, obviously the Braves are. They're neck and neck with the Jags for me. It kind of, thank God they're in different times of the year. I'd have a hard time choosing between the two. But yeah, definitely an Atlanta Braves diehard fan, and the Jags. That's it. I don't really have anybody else besides those two. I'll watch FSU when I can, but it's kind of like I view college football now as the opening act to a concert. The headliner is on Sunday. And if I can watch a game on Saturday, great, but I'm not going to plan my day around it. Anyway, that's totally wasn't on topic for tonight. What we are going to be talking about, the offensive line, which is a position group that I think everyone loves to discuss, right?
It's just so exciting.
It is. It's super exciting position group. So we're going to be dissecting that tonight. But before we get to that, we're going to be talking about the NFL Top 100 on the NFL Network. We saw the appearances of Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell, which wraps up the Jaguars on the top 100. I believe they still have the top 10 to go, which hasn't been released, but we don't really care about that because no Jags made it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to really worry about that. So we're going to dive into that real quick. Before we do, we want to remind everyone that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, and we are on Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. So make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. Give us some feedback. We want to know what we're doing wrong. We hope we're doing some things right, and if you feel the need to tell us that'd be great too, but we're not looking for a pat on the back. If you have any questions, anything that you'd like to hear us discuss, we'd like to hear from you as well. We are Jags fans. You are Jags fans, so let's do this whole thing together. Yeah, so make sure to follow us. And again, we're on SoundCloud, iTunes, and all the other podcasting platforms. So tell your friends about us. We want to spread the word. And we also, again, want to thank you. We have eclipsed the 1,500 download mark, which is pretty exciting for us.
Oh, yeah.
Only 15 episodes. This is our 16th, so we're excited about that. And it's just awesome that people are buying into what we're talking about, which is the greatest team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's go ahead and get started with the NFL Top 100. We saw Jalen Ramsey make his appearance at number 17. I believe Jason asked us a few weeks ago where we thought Ramsey would end up on the top 100 on the NFL Network. Not where he deserved to be, but where we thought he ended up. And if memory serves me correctly, Jason, I believe you said around 10.
I think I said top 10, but if he didn't go top 10, he would go 17.
You were right on the dot.
Right on the
yeah,
dot.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
you said 16 or 17 because I was going to say that one, and then I had to go up to 15, I believe.
Yeah,
I said 15. I think you dropped
I
to
16.
Yeah,
no, I
yeah.
said top 10.
I took the
Okay,
middle.
you said top 10. I
Yeah.
said 15. You said 16.
Yeah, I got prices right.
Yeah, I think Joey said somewhere around 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
He's
said
not
he wasn't going
here-
to make the top. He wasn't going to make top 100, I think is what Joey said.
Yeah, he said
Yeah.
he'd take a flyer, maybe around 90. But so he ended up at 17. Too high, too low?
Way too low. Way
Low
too low.
meaning he should have been closer to 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, are you kidding me? They put DeAndre Hopkins ahead of him. Like, I'm pretty sure he locks down DeAndre Hopkins every single time they've played.
Right.
Like, how are you going to put DeAndre Hopkins at 13 and put Jalen at 17? It just blows my mind. It really does. It just goes to show they don't know what they're talking about at all.
Well, again, it all goes to these lists that value certain positions over others. And offense is always going to be more recognized than defense. He was the highest-rated cornerback in the NFL. He got the top notch for that, unless one happens to appear out of nowhere in the top 10, which I don't see that happening. So he is the highest-ranked cornerback, which is pretty incredible since it's only his second year in the league. He's going to get better.
Yeah.
That's something that we don't really talk about enough, is Jalen Ramsey, as good as he was last year, is going to get better. His name might not see in as much in terms of interceptions and this and that, because I frankly think quarterbacks just aren't going to throw his way. I think it is also too low. He should have been. I mean, he's a top 10 player. I think. I
think he's easily a top 10 player.
He is. I mean, he changes games. He takes away half the field, which
Yeah.
I think he is too, but I mean, we have to remember, I mean, these are players voted by players. So, I mean, I just think out of like almost their quote unquote respect of their own selves. I mean, I don't think they're going to put someone in that. I mean, he had a great first year, but last year was definitely, in my opinion, like his kind of more of his breakout year. I mean, I think it's going to take him next year to show out, and then I guarantee you he might be top 5. I mean, so I think that's the big reason here. It's not just some analysts going out there and throwing out numbers. It's the players voting on it. So
I think if you factored in their age into this list, he would be top 5.
how old is he?
I mean, he was drafted 2 years ago. So
Yeah,
he's
he
gotta
came
be
out as a junior.
So he's got to be 23,
Yeah.
24. So,
Yeah.
I mean, considering you get the guys on the list like Russell Wilson, and they're almost 30, I mean, you're probably going to have like a guy like Aaron Rodgers who's over 30. If this was a list of players you're going to start a franchise with, I think you'll see Jalen a lot higher on that list. But like Russell Wilson, he's a good player. He came in at number 11. I mean, he's a quarterback, so I understand. But I would rather have Jalen Ramsey than Russell Wilson any day of the week.
yeah.
Right
Because-
now, if you can make the trade.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I can't think of very many. I mean, non-quarterbacks. I can't think of very many players I would take right now over Jalen Ramsey if you factor in his age.
I'll tell you what. Since we're talking about that, let's look at the rest of the top 20 that were higher, closer to number 1 than Jalen Ramsey. Okay, we had at 16 Khalil Mack. Okay, Rob Gronkowski at 15, Calais Campbell. We'll talk more about him at 14. DeAndre Hopkins at 13, Luke Kuechly at 12, and then the aforementioned Russell Wilson at number 11. Okay, that's a good, solid group of players. I would say Khalil Mack. That's a tough one because that's an important position he plays, defensive end in the NFL. I would take Ramsey over Rob Gronkowski right now in a heartbeat. Would y'all agree with that? What would you rather have Gronkowski?
Ooh.
Gronkowski's so
Where-
injury prone.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
if he wasn't injury prone right now for where our team is at, I'd probably take Gronkowski. I mean, just because of needing a better offensive presence.
Remember this. When Jalen
It's true.
marked
true.
Gronkowski in the AFC Championship game, he locked him down.
Hey, if
Yeah.
you're talking about swapping the two and Rams to go to the Patriots and then we take them, I would say no. I mean, that wouldn't do anything for
Yeah,
us.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
Yeah,
to trade
but-
teams. I'm saying trade. You would just take that player, but you'd have to get rid of Ramsey.
Maybe. I mean, it's enticing.
No, I wouldn't.
Now,
I wouldn't.
given their age and injury history, but if they were the same age and same injury risk, it would be a tougher question. But given those two factors, I think.
And also based off what I've been hearing about Safarian Jenkins, the reports of him out of mandatory training camp and OTAs, sounds like he's doing pretty good. I'm not sure if that need is going to be there.
Could it actually be the fact that he hasn't had a good quarterback since he's been in the league?
And
Like
now he's
that-
going to have
and
an
now
All-Pro?
Now he's got Blake.
MVP.
Yeah, I mean, you go from a rookie not even a rookie Jameis, I think, in Tampa when he was there. He was playing with whoever their quarterback was before.
And he was not good then either.
Yeah,
I don't
and
remember who
then
that was. I didn't even know Safarian Jenkins was in Tampa.
that's who he got drafted by.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then he got into all that trouble in Tampa, and then he was traded or cut with New York, and then he had McCown and Bryce Petty. I mean, he's never had a quarterback or an offense that's really established. So this is his best situation.
And he's sober, and he's in a locker room that's going to hold him accountable. That's ready
Yeah.
to win a championship. That does a lot for a player's mentality. But yeah, even without that, if we're just talking about, forget about who the Jags have and this and that, just solely based on what a player can do for your team. Khalil Mack, that's a tough one.
He's so young, it makes it hard.
It does,
Yeah.
and he plays defensive end, which
And he's really good.
he's
He's
incredible.
really good.
Yeah, actually, I was mad that the Jags drafted, and I'm sorry to say this now, but when they drafted Bortles, and they could have gotten Khalil Mack,
Yeah.
he went next
Mm-hmm.
right after that in that draft. So I was hoping they would have gotten Khalil Mack, but Dave Caldwell went a different direction, obviously. So that one, I don't know if you call it a push, but it's almost
I'd
like
say
pick
push,
your
yeah.
poison. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, both
Yeah.
are such great young players.
And we're spoiled with a great defensive line right now. So I mean, for another team, Khalil Mack is game changer. I mean, luckily for us right now, we have a ton of really good, and we have depth at our defensive
Our defensive
line.
end ranked higher than he did.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
he
true.
did.
That's true. And we'll get to him in a second. So Jason and I both say no, we don't trade Gronkowski for Ramsey. Robert, you're kind of on the fence.
Well, I was saying if he was healthy. I mean, if he was healthy and
yeah,
didn't
we're,
have the
we're
injury
assuming
prone,
everyone's healthy.
yeah, but I mean, so if he was healthy and he didn't have the injury proneness that he did in the past, I would go Gronkowski. Right now, I would go Jalen.
Okay.
I mean, he had that huge hit on Gronk in the AFC Championship
Yeah, it was
game. I mean,
big.
he laid him out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was actually the play before he was laid out by Barry Church.
Right.
So he got hit back to back pretty hard.
Yes, he did. He's going to remember that, too, come week 2.
He ain't come across the middle of the field.
Yeah. Then we have Calais at 14. We're obviously not trading Calais and Jalen because they're on the same team. DeAndre Hopkins.
Thankfully, this is a family-friendly show because there would be a expletive before the no on that one.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, he's good, but he's 13. Am I the only one that thinks that's just unreasonably high for him?
No,
Just
I
overall?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
would have put him sub 20 personally.
I like DeAndre Hopkins.
I think he's underrated as a player.
Yes.
But that means you have Antonio Brown in the top 10,
Julio.
Julio and Odell. I mean, is Odell even on the list since he didn't
He
really
can't
play
be
last year?
'cause
He
he
didn't play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, J.J. Watt was, so he didn't play.
Yeah. So that means there's 3 in the top 10 if he's at 13.
And that's how they do it, though. They rank those skill position players so high.
They do. I mean,
And it's so strange coming from players in the NFL that they're still ranking the skill position players higher.
I think DeAndre Hopkins is insanely good. I don't know why he doesn't necessarily get the recognition that maybe just because Houston hasn't had the success that Pittsburgh has, and he's not in New York like Odell Beckham, and but 13 is still too. I would have been fine with him being around 20 to 17 maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
13, you're talking about the elite of the elite of the
Yeah.
elite.
And to be fair to him too, he hasn't had a quarterback to really throw to him either since he's came into the league. I mean, we knock on Bortles.
Or anyone else on the offense. for that
People
matter.
knock on Bortles, and I mean, everyone that they've had been way worse than Bortles has been. So I mean,
No doubt he's good. I mean, when you look back at that good Clemson team that had him and Sammy Watkins, when you look back at it now, you realize that he was the reason why they were so good, even though Sammy Watkins got most of the stats.
Sammy Watkins was an insane college player.
He was.
You know.
But Hopkins was really good, too.
Yeah, he was.
And,
it is. But it's Hopkins
yeah.
it seemed like he's made the transition to the NFL better than
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Watkins has. I don't know why. All right, let's move on because it's harder to argue offense and defense a little bit. But what about Luke Kuechly with Jalen Ramsey?
That's a good player right there.
Very good linebacker, which is an important. I'm not sure. To me, I guess you have to question what do you value more, a legitimate number 1 linebacker or a legitimate number 1 corner?
Right.
What's more important?
I think that's probably a push for me. Because I could see building the defense around Luke Kuechly easier than Jalen because, like you said, Jalen controls half the field. Kuechly controls the entire field.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. That might be one that I'd be fair. I mean, hey, I think he should be a top 10 player too. I think these skill position players are ranked too high.
Yeah. I think I would only go with Ramsey, one, because I'm biased, and two, but because of age. He's just younger.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's a lot like the Khalil Mack. That's almost a push for me. And I like Kuechly. Don't have to worry about him because he's in the NFC, so it's not like he's a threat to the Jags or anything like that. So you can appreciate him a little bit more, I suppose.
He's recently had some concussion issues.
Yeah.
So, no thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a push. I mean, to me, again, if we were going off of if I was building a new franchise, kind of going off what Jason said, I mean, Kuechly's nice because he controls the entire field. However, Jalen I love his attitude. I love his hits. I love how he baits people. I mean, he's a guy that you can get a lot of momentum building around. But, I mean, Kuechly's great. I mean, I don't have a problem with him being over top of Jalen like I would like Hopkins or any of the other ones. So
Okay. And last but not least is who we've already kind of touched on is Russell Wilson at number 11. And, Jason, you've already said give me Ramsey over Russell Wilson right now any day.
Oh, absolutely.
So with the I just want to be clear real quick. With the Jaguars roster as it stands, you take Bortles out of quarterback and put Russell Wilson in, and you take Jalen Ramsey out and put fill in the blank in, and you say no to that.
It's Russell Wilson brings a lot. Like he hasn't missed a game. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's never missed a game.
Considering the state of his offensive line.
Yeah, I mean the position he plays in the league
and the size of him and the position he
Yeah.
plays. I mean,
but I still take Jalen though, because I think, defense. You can have a good offense and a bad defense and be a bad team. It's hard to have a good defense and be a bad team. Like if you look at teams that made the playoffs, there's a couple of them that were just offense, but not many. But they were all good defenses.
Mm-hmm.
The only team that was a good offense, no defense was the Patriots. If you look at every other team in the playoffs, strictly defensive teams, because that's what wins you games at the end of the day. You can be as pretty as you want on offense. You look at guys that led the league and these guys that lead the league in passing every year, Stafford and Matt Ryan and Drew Brees is good, but again, these guys aren't going to championship games, and it's because you have to have a good defense. You can't just do it with offense. So I'm a big believer in that. That's why I'm taking Jalen over all those guys.
for me, I'd go Jalen over Wilson too, because I feel like we can win a Super Bowl with Blake there. But if you take Jalen away from our defense currently, I mean, we have holes in middle linebacker. I mean, then that would be a hole on that side. I feel like we would stand a better chance winning a Super Bowl with Blake minus Russell Wilson than Jalen. That's for the Jaguars. And then I'd still probably take Jalen over that just because of youth-wise.
I know I'm breaking my own rule, but I'd keep Jalen because I think Bortles is going to have a monster year this year, and we don't need that upgrade as much as other people think. On a side note, the Magic picked Mo Bamba.
Yeah.
What do you think?
He's a really good player.
Center.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably writing on the wall for Vucevic. He's probably gone now. But Mo Bamba's a really, really athletic player, and he can shoot for a big man. So I'm excited. It's funny because all the needs that the Magic had were like perimeter shooting, perimeter scoring, point guard, and it's like we're gonna take the biggest, most athletic guy in the draft. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Ayton gets all the hype, but all the coaches love Bamba. So.
Well, there's our NBA talk for the rest of the entire year. So if you didn't like that little 3 minutes, then don't worry, it's never gonna happen again. Now, the other Jaguar in this list is Calais Campbell at 14. High, low, just right?
Again, I think this is one of those. I mean, this kind of speaks to where I was talking about Jalen's age-wise. I think Calais having such a big season last year and his age played into the factor of him being this high. I mean, I'm glad he's this high, but I would have definitely put Jalen over top of him personally.
Maybe switch the two?
Yeah, I would have switched the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think Calais Campbell just has more respect throughout the league, like Robert was saying. So I can see why it's happening, but this list obviously isn't an exact reflection of how good these players are. But I think most people would agree that Jalen is. I mean, Jalen was an All-Pro.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all you gotta say.
There does seem to be a pay your dues
Yeah.
type of theme going on here with it. I mean, he had a monster year last year. He was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year up until week 15 or 16.
At what, 31? What is he, 31?
Is he that old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
31. Wow. He
So,
didn't
I mean,
play like it.
You're 31 and 32.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for To me, that's like a Dwight Freeney style level. I mean, it's just like a non-aging person.
Yeah.
He's just a lot bigger than Dwight Freeney.
Yeah, just a lot
Way
bigger.
like a foot taller.
Yeah.
He's 31, yeah.
31. Okay. He not only played incredible on the field, but his impact in the locker room and in practice, I think, is something that you can't measure. I don't think he's going to have the year, this coming up year, like he had last year, just because it was such a big year. I think that might go to Unique. I think, and we'll talk more about this with. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself talking about the defensive line, but yeah, I mean, I think he is deserving of 14 because he did have such an incredible year.
He had a huge impact on our team too. I mean, Malik Jackson coming in helped our locker room some, but I mean, Calais Campbell coming in was a whole nother level of presence. So I mean, he really, I think, single-handedly, attitude-wise, helped turn around our defense. I mean, because we had a lot of young people. I mean, getting them kind of in shape and then being an example, being that age and having that many sacks and balling out the way he did, it was insane.
When we signed Campbell, I knew he was good, but maybe I just didn't follow the Cardinals that closely, but I didn't know he was that good.
No.
I mean, I knew he was good. Like, I knew he was good, but it's like I didn't realize that he would be like a dominant force on the D-line.
Right.
I would have been a lot more excited. I thought Malik Jackson was going to be a better player than he was because Malik Jackson got a lot of hype playing on that Denver team and with Von Miller and all them. So, but Campbell, man, he blew me away, man. That was a great signing. That really was.
Well, he came out the first game of the year at Houston and gets 4 sacks. I mean,
Yeah.
just has, and I think that really set the tone for his presence on the defense the rest of the year in terms of the locker room and in practice. Like, these guys started taking him more seriously, and it didn't stop. I mean, obviously he didn't get 4 sacks per game. I mean, the next game and the next one after that, he just kept following up with play after play. And even though we didn't see it on the stat sheet, it's something that, Jason, you've mentioned several times, is just how he disrupted an offense, maybe even when he didn't get a tackle, just all that stuff. So, and again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we are going to be talking about the defensive line here really soon. But I think it's a tip of the cap to an all-pro, both in his position on a football team, but also just him as a human being, to put him at 14 because he's just such a quality guy as well. So I'm happy for him to get 14. I think he could have been a top 10, honestly.
And I hope not, but I mean, when it comes down to it too, I mean, just age-wise and everything, I mean, unless he's just, I don't know. I mean, unless he can do the same thing next year, I don't see him getting this high again. So I think this was also kind of one of those, like, get him up there one last time kind of deal.
It's very possible. Very possible. It's a good point. So let's see. We had on the NFL Top 100 this year 6 Jaguars who were on the team last year. Did Andrew Norwell make the NFL Top 100? Do we know that? I don't remember seeing anything about him making it. I mean, which, even though he was an All-Pro guard, you know, I don't know how many guards make the NFL Top 100 just because it's not exciting TV. But we do know that 6 Jaguars from last year made the NFL Top 100. To recap: Ngakoue, Telvin Smith, A.J. Boye, Leonard Fournette, Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell. That's 6 Jaguars from this past season. All right, so going into this season coming up, in a year from now when we're talking about the NFL Top 100, how many Jaguars make the list?
I'm gonna say same number 6, but you might see some different people on that list. I don't know if we maybe 7. I mean, I know people think I'm gonna be crazy for saying this. I think we see Dante Fowler slip up there, even if it's a
99?
A 99. I think he slips in there this year. I think this can be a breakout season for him, and I think he might show out. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna say 7. I can't see why the same guys don't get on the list next year.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to knock.
I mean,
all of them off.
Yeah, I can't see a single one that's gonna have a down season next year. I mean, unless injury happens. I mean, which obviously can, but I see those same guys getting back on there.
Yeah, I guess we have to say this every time. It's kind of annoying, but assuming everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Jason, what do you think?
I think we'll see 7 to 8. Like Robert said, I agree. I think all of them will make it again next year. The only old guy the only guy over 27 is Calais Campbell on the list. So I mean, they're all going to come back. I mean, Bouye is the next oldest one that's awesome for us. I think you'll see a lineman on it next year, whether it be Norwell or Linder. I think either one of those guys could be because Linder's only been in the league for 4 years. I mean, we'll get to
Mm-hmm.
that in a second. But, I mean, I think you'll see Linder and Norwell on there next year. Norwell didn't make the list. The only guard to make the list was Zach Martin at 58. So,
Who is now the highest paid guard in the
Right.
NFL, by the way. He just
Mhm.
got an extension from Dallas.
And then I think you might see Austin Safarian-Jenkins on there. I think you could see Miles Jack on there. So I'm gonna say 7, maybe 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You kind of stole my thunder there. I was going to say those exact 2 players as well, which puts it at 8. And I'll say this, too. Of the 6 that made it this year, I think all of them, except for maybe Campbell, but just because he's ranked so high, and it's going to be hard to duplicate that next year, I think all of them, including Ramsey, move up higher on the list next year.
Yeah.
Ngakwe being in the, what was he in the
88.
80s?
88.
That is ridiculous. That is absolutely insane. He might make the biggest jump of all. He could jump into the top 20 next year. That's 60 spot difference. Telvin, I think Miles Jack to me has the best bet of getting on there. The only reason I would not say Safarian-Jenkins is just because how many opportunities is he going to get in the offense? I think he could, based off whatever all the reports are. And hey, who knows? Maybe Bortles gets on there too. Then you're talking about 9 players if you consider Safarian-Jenkins as well and Miles Jack and the 6 that are on there now. That's 1 per top 10. That means every episode, because they put 10 out on a time, you see a Jaguar.
That's 10% of the list.
That speaks
on one
volumes
team.
to this roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and I know saying Bortles is a stretch. All of a sudden he goes, some are saying he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL to now being a top 100 player. But hey, you never know.
Yeah,
I'm expecting big things. I'm gonna say it every episode. We're not talking quarterback tonight, but say it again. I'm expecting big things from Blake Bortles next year.
Yeah, I mean,
big things.
If we make it to another AFC Championship game and hopefully the Super Bowl, that's going to be because Blake stepped up big time. And if that's the case, he got that high a second year in a row. I mean, I know our defense did a lot of it last year. I don't see why he shouldn't be on that list.
Right.
To have any number one of those other quarterbacks up there that don't make it as far as we did, regardless of how good our defense is, and not even crack the top 100 would be kind of a slap in the face.
Right. And that's the other thing. Winning breeds recognition.
Yeah.
So if they continue to win, then they're going to get more recognized, and people are going to know who they are more, and that's going to make other people get on the list. And so it's just how it works. So, yeah, I think I would put the over-under probably at 7, because I think we'll definitely see one more Jag on there next year. Who that is remains to be seen, but I would be shocked if we don't have one more.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do we have 2 more?
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome.
I mean, Kirk Cousins was 94. And you got to think about how he's viewed compared to Blake.
Yeah.
So it might be tough for Blake to be on there.
I mean, heck, Andrew Norwell. I mean, if he comes out and plays like he did last year, I can't see how you can't put him on the list either.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. My mind's kind of blown that he's not on the list now. I mean, I know it's not
Yeah.
a really popular position, but at the same time, I mean, he was the number 1 guard in the NFL, and to not have him on there, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, how are you an All-Pro and don't make the Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Unreal.
I don't know how that works.
So
Let me go back. Kirk Cousins was where on the list?
94.
Okay. Kirk Cousins was 94, and Russell Wilson is number 11.
That's crazy.
That is
Yeah,
a
that's not-
disparity right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, does that make any sense to you whatsoever?
No.
I mean, and for more context for who we have, Ben Roethlisberger was 18.
Wow.
So, you know,
See, I mean, can you honestly say that Russell Wilson is 83 spots better than Kirk Cousins?
no.
Mm-mm.
I mean, he's efficient and doesn't get hurt, but that doesn't make you a top player.
No.
I mean, that makes you a good player. It doesn't make you a top 11 player.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, Matt Ryan was number 29. I would probably have him over all of the quarterbacks we just named.
I definitely have him over. Yeah, I would too. I don't know.
Who knows what's going on? Jared Goff, 38. Come on. Come
What?
on.
Really?
Yes. Like,
What?
I mean,
See, when you say that, then all of a sudden Bortles being on there doesn't seem like
Yeah,
that
that's
much of a
true.
and
stretch.
also when I hear that, I really start going, do any of these players actually pick this, or is this just their agents? Because I
Yeah.
can't think of a single player that's going to go, yeah, Goff's 38. I can,
No, of
I can
course,
put that
why
on
not?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's saying Goff is a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's absurd. Yeah, this lost all validity for me now.
Yeah, that's hard to imagine. So anyway, we'll see. Yeah, it's something for us to talk about in June and July. I'm glad they do it because it is fun to discuss, but it doesn't really carry any weight, obviously.
Mm-mm.
But all right, well, we're gonna anything else y'all want to add, Campbell or Jalen?
Mm-mm.
Just congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll see Jalen crack the top 10 next year. And who knows? Maybe Campbell too. We'll take a quick little break, and we'll be back to talk about the Jags offensive line going into this season. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to another Jags podcast, episode 16. We just got done talking about the NFL Top 100 and where Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell ranked on there and where we see the Jaguars going forward on that list. It's fun to talk about, but it's not real football. It's just more, discussion. But anyway, we're going to be talking tonight. Everyone, buckle up. It's exciting. It's what everyone. It's really what everyone talks about
Absolutely.
in the NFL, and that's the offensive line. All right?
Oh, man.
I mean, it's the most exciting, most talked about position group, maybe in all of sports.
Yeah,
Forget it transcends football.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Again, before we do that, before we dive headfirst into the excitement that is the offensive line, we do want to remind you all: Twitter, Another Jags Pod; Facebook, Instagram, Another Jags Podcast. Check us out, follow us, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. But let's go ahead and dive right in. And as we always do, as is our custom, we're going to turn it over to Jason really quick. Let him briefly, I'll say, discuss.
Very briefly.
Because and I'll just let you handle it. The Jaguars offensive line. So, Jason, go ahead and take it away.
All right, so tonight we are doing a breakdown of the offensive line, and I will be the first to tell you that I am not an offensive line expert. The only people that seem to be are offensive linemen themselves. It's very complicated. They move as a unit. 5 people all have to be on the same page. It's really unlike any other position in sports because very rarely is the offensive line a one-on-one position. You're working as a unit. So you're really only as strong as your weakest link in the literal sense with the offensive line. So the Jaguars run a power set offensive line, which we kind of talked about last week, which is hat-on-a-hat assignment football, where they will try to run downhill at you. And in pass protection, they're typically just doing fan blocks where they're kind of blocking the guy on their outside shoulder or things like that, which would be the opposite, a zone running scheme, where you're kind of playing to get to the space and you're playing gaps and just a different type. Usually you have smaller offensive linemen and smaller backs, but the Jaguars like the big offensive linemen and the power run it down your throat football.
Tom Coughlin especially.
Absolutely. Him and Marone. And just a reminder, Marone was the Jaguars offensive line coach while Gus Bradley was here. So he's an offensive line through and through. So just quickly, the starters, left tackle Cam Robinson, 22 years old, 6'6", 332. He's in his second year out of Alabama.
6'6"?
6'6".
Wow, big boy.
Funny thing is, probably our whole starting offensive line is 6'6", minus AJ Cam.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
I was going to say that. Like, they're all almost cookie cutter, exactly the same size, a few pounds here or there, which is insane. At left guard, which we talked about briefly and earlier, is Andrew Norwell, who we just signed as a unrestricted free agent. He's turning 27 this year. He is also 6'6", 315. He's in his 4th year. He was undrafted out of Ohio State, but he has had a really, really good last couple of years, grading out as one of the top offensive guards in the NFL. So that's going to be exciting. He was the number 1 guard on PFF in pass protection, and he was the number 3 guard on PFF in run. So that's pretty good.
I could be wrong. I looked up his weight on Jaguars.com, and they had him at 325. I mean, that's like 10 pounds difference, though. Do you think he's closer to 315 or 25?
I think probably at the beginning of the season he's 325. At the end of the season he's probably 315.
Okay.
Because when you weigh that much,
because that's a 10-pound difference.
Yeah,
right
but when you're 300 pounds,
I guess it's
not as much. Or then at center you have Brandon Linder. He's 26. He is also 6'6", 315. He's out of Miami. He was really good for us last year. He's widely regarded as one of the best centers in the league. At right guard, we have AJ Cann, 26 years old, 6'3", a little shorter, 325. He's out of South Carolina. And finally, at right tackle, we have Jeremy Parnell, who's the veteran on our line at 31 years old, 6'6", 326. He's in his 8th season out of Ole Miss.
Okay, so we got some big boys up there.
It is big.
Okay.
They are big.
Well, let me ask you, let's just dive right into it really quick. Let me ask you this. You said that an offensive line group as a whole for any team in the NFL is only as good as its weakest link. All right? So let me ask you this. who is the Jags' weakest link on the offensive line? Who's the one that when you look at that you are concerned most about?
I personally am concerned the most with A.J. Cann. He graded out not that great, 53 on Pro Football Focus. The upside to him is he stays healthy and plays a lot of snaps. He played 1,033 snaps last year. That's good for 91% of our offensive snaps. That's good. That's a really high percentage considering our offensive line. We had some injuries last year. We were banged up. So he's who I'm most concerned with. He gets beat. It really, his biggest issue with me is his scan protection. And what that means is when you drop the pass block, sometimes the defensive line doesn't do what you think they're going to do, and then you have to kind of scan the field and find the free blitzer or find who's coming in unblocked. He seemed to recognize that so late, and it hurt us so many times. I've seen him on plays where when he was pulling on run plays that he did good. I feel like he's a better kick-out blocker than he is a reach blocker, but a lot of times we're not asking him to kick out. And with Norwell going to be our pulling guard mostly, I don't know. I could see him, with him being a liability in the pass game, him being our weakest link.
I think our right side just in general is our weakest link. I would probably last season would have said A.J. Cann, but right now I'm thinking Jeremy Parnell. I mean, he ended up missing 3 games last year with a knee injury, and he's 31. So, I mean, if that reoccurs or anything like that, I mean, that's our right tackle. So I'm most worried about him. Also, A.J. Cann's in his final year of his rookie contract, which he probably – I know for a position like this, I mean, it's kind of like this kind of thing isn't like going to really make you all of a sudden that much better, but I'm hoping he's going to be working extra hard because of that, hoping to get another deal or get picked up better with a pretty good signing bonus with someone else. So I'm going to go Parnell personally right this moment.
Yeah, I'd go Parnell too. Not so much for those reasons, but and listen, I'm by no means consider myself an offensive lineman expert. Throw that out right now. But what I remember about last year with Parnell is it seemed like and maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like he was penalized a lot, whether it was holding or false starts. It just seemed like if there was a penalty on the offensive line, it was him. Cann isn't my favorite, but durability goes a long way, I think, in the NFL. And for him to have that many snaps, whatever you said, Jason, over 1,000, at a position where these heavy guys are falling on you, you're being bent backwards all the time, tripping over other guys' legs. I mean, there's opportunities on every single play to get hurt. And for him not to is pretty remarkable, really. I mean, that's unbelievable that he played that many snaps without getting hurt. Parnell, like Robert said, he's 31. He's getting a little up there. Not to mention the fact that they did draft Will Richardson out of NC State in the 4th round, who happens to be, anyone want to guess how tall he is?
6'6".
6'6".
Oh,
He's
man.
6'6", 303 pounds. So he could actually put on a little weight by comparison to the other guys on the line. But there is that. To me, there's a little more depth at right tackle than guard. I read somewhere today, I don't remember where it was, but that Cann is not going to be given the job. He's going to be given the opportunity to earn the job first. But there is going to be competition there. But all the guys that came after him it's no one that, you're going to be doing cartwheels over. So it's not like there's a lot of options at right guard. So I would go with a guy who has experience and who is durable over some maybe unknowns.
Well, kind of funny. Supposedly Cann's been kind of out right now with some kind of injury no one knows about. So, I mean, they've actually been playing Josh Walker in for his spot. He's been taking first-team reps, and supposedly he's looked pretty good. He's 6'5", 330. So, who knows? I mean,
my whole thing about durability is right out the window.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be something small, and they're just letting him. I mean, it could be as easy as a toe, and they're just letting him sit out a little bit. But who knows? It could be serious. There are already some people taking first-team snaps for him in that position, so that's always good to at least know someone is already getting a little bit of reps in before the season starts.
Yeah.
I can't see Josh Walker filling in. I mean, he's played in 4 games the last 2 years. So, I mean, if you're looking at depth, I like guys like Josh Wells, who came in for us last year and played really well during the year, and Tyler Shatley.
You're big on Shatley.
I like Shatley, and I like Wells too. I like both those guys.
I don't know if Wells makes the team though. I don't think he'll make the team.
Really?
I think there's a better chance that Parnell gets cut versus Wells getting cut.
Really?
Yeah, because Parnell really is kind of, like I said, he's the older guy. I mean, everyone's in love with the stat that he didn't give up a sack all year, but
there were, everyone had that at some point in time.
and
so
a good coach knows how to scheme around that. Like if you have a bad lineman, you're going to help him out with a tight end or a running back. You know, that's what you're going to do. So that stat doesn't really impress me as much as it does a lot of other people. But Josh Wells is so versatile. I mean, he played left tackle, left guard, he's right tackle. He filled in everywhere last year, and that's what you want in a lineman. You want someone that's versatile. Shatley, he may have to earn his spot this year, but I think Wells is safe. I mean, who really knows? But I mean,
Let me ask you this: of the 5 starters that you mentioned earlier, Cam Robinson at left tackle, Andrew Norwell left guard, Brandon Leonard at center, AJ Cannon at right guard, and Jeremy Parnell at right tackle. Are those the starters going in September? Are those our starters going into week 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. I definitely think so. Unless Parnell gets cut, and because he holds a lot of cap room. ESPN actually had an article a couple days ago. Mike Duraco wrote it for the Jaguars piece on a veteran for every team that may be cut after preseason. Now they had to pick one for every team.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to pick one. So, but Duraco said Jeremy Parnell. You know, and he cited the fact that Will Richardson is good, and that's why. But I would argue, I think Josh Wells is a good player, and I think he would fit in for him instead. Josh Wells played in 41% of offensive snaps last year. Like that's a lot more than the average person would probably say.
Yeah.
Like if you were trying to think, but it's because he's so versatile. He plays everywhere. You're like, oh, there he is at tackle. Oh, there he is at guard. You know, it's like he jumps in for you everywhere to where he was almost on 50% of our offensive snaps. Like that's crazy to think about. So I think that's a guy that may work his way into the starting rotation for me. But that right side is just is weak. I mean, there was PFF Jaguars put out a tweet running to the right. The Jaguars had 391 yards, 3.1 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. To the left, they had 649, which is almost double the yards, 4.51, which is almost a yard and a half more yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns to the left. So they were significantly better running to the left than they were to the right.
Now, I can't see someone like Shatley, them losing him. I mean, he did a good job last year. He stepped up for Linder for, 2 or 3 games at center, and he played both left and right guard. I mean, he's pretty much your whole middleman as a backup. I mean, I can't see why you would get rid of him personally.
Yeah, I mean, I like Shatley.
And he's a good interior blocker just in general.
I like Shatley. I am just saying, based on how much playing time he got last year, there's a better chance that Wells sees more playing time than Shatley does.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. You got center, you got Linder. You know what you're getting out of Linder. Solid. Left guard, Norwell, solid. What do you see from Cam Robinson this year? What do you see his second year being like?
Cam Robinson is an interesting person to look at because I oftentimes get too, I think, engulfed in looking at his stats and the fact that he had good game, then bad game, then good game, then bad game. And he was so inconsistent, and then inconsistency kind of worries you because that was actually the biggest knock on him coming out of college. I went back and read his draft profile, and it was like the guy may be inconsistent at times. And that's exactly what it was. That led to his grading not being great. But then I always think back, like, the dude's a rookie.
Right.
I mean, he was a rookie. I mean, you don't usually get worse with time. That doesn't happen very often. So even if he stayed consistent, I think he was a serviceable, more than serviceable tackle. And he had injury problems. I mean, he was hurt a lot. He was dealing with bad ankle almost the entire year. And I know everyone's going to get hurt, but
then he had abdominal issues too at some point in time towards the end of the year. I mean,
yeah.
So he missed 2 games with that.
I mean, it's hard to play injured. I mean, you have to in the NFL, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that he will improve in the future.
You don't see by leaps and bounds improvement, but improvement nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, he's 22. I mean, that's young.
Yeah.
I think if he can stay healthy and stay on the field, he'll do just fine. But if he has another year like last year, I mean, I'm worried. I mean, if he's missing 3 to 4 games next season as well, I mean, that's not helping us, in my opinion. No matter how good he is, I mean, that you need your starting left tackle there. I mean, one game I understand, but 3 games, I mean, that's too much if you're trying to be a Super Bowl team.
Right. I like Cam Robinson. There's something to me. I think when it's all said and done with him and his career, will be the second best left tackle the Jags have had. Obviously there's Baselli and everybody else, but I think he comes in with that next one. I think he's going to be better than Eugene Monroe was for the Jags. He's obviously better than Jokel. What I like about him though is he seemed to bring, even as a rookie, a nastiness to the offensive line that was lacking for a long time. And he just has that about him, which I like a lot. Yes, he was inconsistent, but to Jason's point, he was a rookie. And they weren't even sure. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember going back. I'd have to look it up. But when they drafted him, was Brandon Albert still on the team? Or
I think he was, because I think it was before preseason that we cut/trade him to the Dolphins or whatever it was that happened.
Yeah, got rid of him one way or the other. So my point is that when they drafted him, it wasn't even 100% that he was going to be the starter, and then he got kind of not thrown into it. But anyway, I just think for his rookie year, second round pick, I thought he did pretty good, and I think he's going to get better as well. Do I think he's going to, be the next best left tackle in the NFL? No, but I think he will be more than serviceable. I think he will be a upper tier left tackle. Maybe not next year, but then in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I like his personality. I like having a kind of that dirty kind of left player too. I mean, I don't know. He just comes across as just kind of a mean guy, which I like when he's on the field. And I know we all listen to it. I loved his mic'd up that he did too. I mean, those kind of things make me happy to hear when I hear guys out there like that. So I mean, I like him. That's my only concern though, is that I need him. Everyone needs him to stay healthy. So,
right.
But if he does that, I'm excited about him.
Good. Yeah, me too.
And I think he'll benefit a lot from having Norwell next to him. Norwell helped Matt Khalil a lot in Carolina. I mean, there were plays that he made up for blown assignments time and time again. I mean, this guy's the real deal. There's plays where he's blocking 2 players on one play. I mean, that's going to really, really help him. I liked Patrick Omame. I thought he was really good at run blocker for the Jags, but Norwell is just another level of good. Andrew Norwell did not miss a snap last year. That is unbelievable. 100% of the snaps he played for the Panthers. I mean, there's a reason why he's an all-pro. There's not often that offensive line tape stands out, but Norwell's does. And if you look at our Twitter, we were posting videos all week of Norwell. And I mean, the thing with him is if he gets his hands on you, you're done. There is no getting off the block with him. I mean, he will drive you into the ground. His former teammate with the Panthers, Darrell Williams, said this about him. He said, he's an inspiration just watching him. He's physical, tough, and nasty, and I'm glad he's my teammate. That's what you want a D lineman to say about an offensive lineman. That's what you want. I really think our offensive line is going to be so improved because of him. And like we've talked about in the past, that was he might have been the best player in free agency that changed teams.
Well, and I don't think to that point, I don't think people understand. He was the number 1 target for the Jags during the offseason. During the free agency period, that's who was number 1 on their board. It wasn't anybody else, and they decided, well, we can't get them, so let's at least get Norwell. No, that is who they wanted. That was their number 1 priority going into the offseason, was signing Andrew Norwell, and they did. We talk about 2 seasons ago, or 2 off seasons ago, they got Campbell, A.J. Boye, Barry Church. It was it's going to be the off-season of all off-seasons for the Jaguars. Well, the next season, they followed up by getting the best player at his position, Andrew Norwell. So they clearly value him incredibly high. He is now the 2nd highest paid guard in the NFL. I agree. I believe a lot like we see on the defense, where you have this stellar defensive line feeds the mouth of the secondary and vice versa. Our secondary helps the defensive line. You're going to see Norwell have that effect, that ripple effect to Robinson and Linder. As you go from left to right on the offensive line for the Jags, it's quality, and then there's question marks on the right side of the ball. But who knows? Maybe I don't know enough about the offensive line, but if you have a quality left tackle, left guard, and center, that can somehow then help your right side of the line? I would imagine it would have to, because everyone says that the offensive line is a unit. Well, if you have 3 really strong players, or at least 2 specifically really strong players, that has to affect the rest of the line. Not just the guy to your immediate right or left, but the other guys as well, right?
Well, what it allows you to do is it allows you to send help to that side. Send in Safarian Jenkins, or whether it be Niles Paul, or whether it be Tommy Bowe, right? Or a running back in shotgun. You can put him to that side of the field. So you're really, really helping out there because you can trust the left side to stand on its own. And like you said, that leads to the entire line being better. It's huge. I think we're gonna. Jaguars improved so much with Norwell, and I didn't want this to be the Andrew Norwell podcast, but it very well could have been because of how much I think he's going to help the team. I mean, what a home run signing!
Yeah,
I've never been so excited about that. When you look at offensive linemen, one of the things you evaluate them on is leverage and their ability to keep their leverage, not getting off balance, not getting overextended, not getting their weight all weird on different legs and too far forward. The guy never ever was in a position of poor leverage. And then guys that do, you look for them to compensate for like their punch and their hands, and his are elite. So it's like he's got the 2 factors that you look for to compensate each other, but he doesn't need them to. I mean, whether he's down blocking, drive blocking, that guy's like a beast.
Yeah, and last season he was the only NFL lineman to have at least 500 pass blocking snaps and not have a single sack or a QB touch. So not just a sack, but his player never even touched a QB all season long on pass blocking snaps. That's insane, and that's exactly what Bortles needed this year. So,
and what I love about him too, since day one that he signed with the Jags, what you hear coming out of his mouth is Super Bowl. I mean, he has taken on the mantra of the team immediately. He didn't come here chasing money. He got a lot of it, but you can tell he's not coming in lazy saying, I got paid, whatever. He has completely wrapped his arms around what this team is about, and that is winning a championship. And I love that. He just fits right in. And kudos to Dave Caldwell and Tom Coughlin for going out and getting this guy and seeing what needed to be addressed and addressing it. And I again, to echo what Jason just said, I love this signing. You don't often get excited about guards, but this is one to get excited about. In terms of the offensive line, guard is probably the lost one of a lost position group already. You have your tackles, which are important because they, protect the edge. And then you have the center, which has to have a good rapport with the quarterback, so that's important there. So the guards are almost like the last on the lowest on the totem pole for the offensive line, but man, we got a good one, and hopefully he can show some things. He can apply what he knows to the other guy, to Wells, to Shatley, and they're all going to be better as a unit. I mean, my goodness, what kind of running back does Fournette become with an improved offensive line? What kind of quarterback does Bortles come with an improved offensive line? Everybody gets better.
Yeah, I mean, last year we were the 11th ranked pass blocking offensive line. I could easily see us going to the 5th with the addition of him just because of how good he is. And that shores us up big time. So I'm excited to see what we do.
All right, so we mentioned his name a little bit ago. We talked about the Jags did draft an offensive lineman this year, Will Richardson, 4th round, NC State. I believe when he was drafted, Jason, you didn't love him. Do you guys see him, aside from injury, let's just say the starting 5 remain healthy for the most part, do you see him contributing to the team at all this year in terms of being on the field that much?
What confused me the most about him, because I was having to go back and look at some stuff with him, he was the 5th highest graded offensive tackle, according to NFL.com, for the coming into the draft, yet 9 offensive tackles went over him. So clearly, I mean, he was supposedly ranked a little higher than most of these other guys, yet 9 went over top of him. And I don't know if that has to do, I mean, when he was in college, I mean, early on he had a DUI charge and he had a marijuana possession charge, but he didn't have that his last year, so I can't imagine that was everything that those other coaches looked at. I mean, I can't imagine it was strictly off of conduct issues, but, I mean, so that gives me a little bit of concern with him. That being said, we have talked multiple times about how, I mean, if Marone saw something in him, hopefully he's going to be good. But, I mean, I see him as being kind of like a swing tackle for us. as like a backup for that position. But other than that, I don't really know how much I expect him to do next season, in all honesty.
Well, I think like you said, his off the field issues really led to him dropping in the team's evaluation of him going into the draft. But just watching him, my own evaluation of him, I couldn't help and just picture another Jeremy Parnell type player. Like a strong guy that if he gets his hands on you good, he can hold that block and he'll fall on top of you. But when it comes to like his lateral quickness and trying to handle stunting defensive linemen, he doesn't give you much. Basically, he's perfect goal line lineman, like on the goal line, pushing you forward and then falling on you. He's perfect for that. But when it comes to lining up in shotgun and playing in space against these fast edge rushers, I think he's really going to struggle for doing that. Super strong. I mean, his combine numbers were good. He's a thick guy. He has good timing with linebackers. One of the best things about him is people say he can rattle pads when he lands, but he's got, like we said, off the field issues. He just looks stiff in the legs. I mean, again, I'm not an offensive line guru, but he just looks stiff to me. That's like the best way to describe it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that if everyone's healthy, he doesn't see the field.
Yeah.
But here's, if we go back again to the draft, I was, and a lot of other people were banging the drum for the Jags to draft offensive line with their first pick overall. Well, they didn't do it. They didn't do it with their second pick or their third. So clearly they must feel pretty good about who they have to wait until the fourth round to get him. They passed on Will Hernandez. They passed on several others that a lot of draft experts, using quotation marks heavy when I say experts, but saw some of these guys that the Jags could have taken as much, better as really good prospects. The Jags didn't take them, so I'm hoping that our front office sees Can and Parnell, and even I'll throw in Wells and Shatley as backups as quality offensive linemen to give them the opportunity to not have to pick a guy until the fourth round. Instead, they went depth on the defensive line, went and got a receiver in the second round, safety in the third round, and then waited till the fourth. So I don't know. Either they are set with who they had or they found a diamond in the rough in Richardson. I like big guys, and he's a big guy. He's going to take up space, and if he can occupy his man, I think that's a win to get him in the fourth round. I'm interested to see him in the preseason. I'll be looking to see what he does in the preseason. If there's not a lot to really dissect in the preseason, but he'll be one I definitely take a look at.
There's one thing to add about him is the NC State ran a really heavy zone offense, which is completely different than what the Jaguars run. I don't know if that's a big deal or not, but there's going to be a learning curve with him versus a guy maybe like Casey McDermott, who came over from Miami, who may be used to that type of offense, or maybe a lineman you could have taken earlier in the draft. So they must have faith that he can pick up a totally new blocking scheme. I mean, even the terminology changes, which is tough for a lot of people to get. So it'd be interesting to see if it takes him a little bit longer to gain traction with the offense compared to other offensive linemen.
It was cool if I'm sure you can find it online somewhere, the audio of Dave Caldwell calling him. Mm-hmm. And when they told him that he was going to be drafted, I mean, he was fired up. I mean, it was not something that he took lightly. He didn't try and play it cool. He was very emotional, and it was really cool to hear. So definitely excitement in his voice. Hopefully that transfers onto the field.
All right, that's going to wrap up episode 16 of Another Jags podcast. Thanks for listening. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Another Jags Pod and on Instagram and Facebook at Another Jags Podcast. Make sure to send us your questions, your comments, your concerns, and definitely make sure to check out our past podcast where we broke down other positions. Next week, we're going to be taking on probably the best position the Jaguars have in the defensive line. So that's going to be a really, really good time. I'm excited about that. Think it may be one of our best podcasts coming up. Thanks for listening to the #1 off-season Jaguars podcast. And as always, go Jags.